Jordan, start with your run defense. It's been statistically very good all year for the most part. Does your observations back that up? And if so, why has it been good?
Yeah, I think well, I think it's been okay. The thing that I think we would be a lot better if we were more consistent tackling, um, particularly outside in space. But overall, I think up front, the guys have done a nice job.
Just outside where you'd like to see improvement, where improvement in terms of defending the
Yeah,
run.
I mean, I think that how that people have attacked us up to this point, um, that's where we have to improve. If there's improvement to be had, I think that's where it has to be. And that's a lot of times that's very difficult for for edge players because usually they're in some type of conflict. That's the reason that we're getting attacked the way that we're getting attacked. So that's a lot easier said than done.
How did your corners hold up? I know you're getting real thin there.
Saturday, I mean, you know what Oklahoma State does, and I said this sitting in here last week, the simplicity of their offense, and if you let them get you in that situation, that was the one personnel Saturday that they have not shown to just drop back and throw a fade. But it was normally fullback, two tight ends, or vice versa. Anyway, long story short, it was their heaviest personnel they've been in. Not a whole lot of options there. Cover the fade, they hand the ball. Cover the box, they throw the ball. They call it 50-50 for a reason. And give them credit. Spencer Sanders threw two really good balls that could only have been caught by one person, and he caught both of them. So to say that was a bad job by Jackie is unfair. But when the situation comes, it's 50-50 for a reason. You got to win. Find a way to win.
Saw more Bandit in this game than the Iowa State game. Is it just because of what they presented you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's only so many things you can present when you're a four down front. You don't have a whole lot of. There's not a lot of moving pieces in that. Where you may be good with what you're trying to do, you really kind of have to present very few pictures. I thought our bandits did a better job last week in practice of being the guy that could move around and pressure a little bit against the run. So that's why we did that, and we were able to play with some edges with some other guys by doing that. So kind of spread the defense out a little bit when you face a stretch team.
Jordan, another really good running back this week, but with how they use him, especially in the passing game, and just kind of how he is this the most unique of the line of backs that you've seen so far?
Yeah, I mean, how the combination of the formations they use with him just his skill set, it makes it really difficult. It's very, very unique. I think for 3 or 4 weeks now that it's been more of traditional running back, downhill power, and how teams have done that is pretty simple, honestly. To how they use Deuce is you always have to find him, and that sometimes is in their formation structure is hard to do.
You got a lot of practice against good running backs.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just Big 12. It never, some years it's receivers. This year it's running backs.
I know the wheel route's a big deal with them too. With him.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that's they can get him in that situation a lot, formationally, and still get him to.
They can do it different ways.
Oh yeah, they do it a ton of different ways. That's the difficulty of the offense is how many ways they can present what they're trying to do.
Jordan, I was going to ask you about the number of big time plays they've had this year, 50, 60-yard plays. Is it just the formation and the ability to create matchups, or?
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. It's the ability to create matchups where they feel their matchups fit them. Guys do a great job. Always have, the years we've played them. That's where they do, I think, as good a job as anybody. Is taking the personnel they have that is that's next level, and using it in formation and guys and getting them in position to make plays, which is in its simplest form good coaching.
I understand tight ends don't line up outside, so you're never going to see them running up the sideline, but it seems like they're tight end, but also across college football when tight ends make big plays, they're in that spot and seam. Is that just like a universal soft spot in defense that's hard to cover because of defensive schemes and just happens to get caught open every so often?
Yeah, well, what you do with tight ends, and we've seen this. Really, you see it a lot more if guys can recruit those bodies and those athletes of that size, is they balance you up. All right, so there's no. I mean, it'd be easy if every offense lined up in 3 over here, 1 over here. If I can count to 4, I'm pretty good at that equation. Or if I can count to 5, I'm really good at it. All right, but if with tight ends, what they do is they get you in normally a 2 and 2 to one side, to both sides, and then there's a moving piece that can unbalance it, and you have to find it, and that's what tight ends do. They give the impression that it's unbalancing the formation, but really with athletes like that, they're balancing it up. And so you have to play the entirety of the field when you have guys like that. So and that's just a challenge every week, because most everybody we play has those guys.
You've had a pretty consistent, strong defense all year. You have a whole different set of coaching buttons to push, I guess, than the offense does, which is trying to get you're almost, you want to keep them coming down, and they're trying to get up. How much psychology do you have to use to keep a defense going at a certain level rather than to try to raise them?
The players or the coaches?
The coaches, I mean.
Oh yeah.
I hope the players aren't.
Well, Neil has a psychology degree, and he'll tell you he uses it more than he does his anything he's ever done, and coaching wise. And I think it's probably, if I had one, it would be the same. No, I mean it's as you get into the, and I'm totally joking, but if you get into the grind of a season, the hardest thing to do is keeping your eye on what's next, and the next best thing, the next right thing. Coach has said, started really kind of middle of the year. It's really just about focus on what you're doing, and keeping what's important, and when keeping all your goals in focus and what you're trying to do. And sometimes those change. For us defensively, and this was exactly what I told them after the game. I was very proud of how they played, very proud of how they fought. And sometimes you do that, and the result is not what you want it to be. And that's football. That's life. That's anything. But I told them if they approach, so you take the last 4th down stop and you put that on film, and our kids are playing just as hard on that stop as they are at any point in the game. Sean Mahone makes an unbelievable play on Spencer Sanders, which in any normal situation in that personnel in that play probably scores when he boots out. And Sean Mahone makes a great play, and that's a super senior. All right, and I got 3 other guys chasing the football, and a 4-year guy in Taj Austin is chasing the football in that play just as hard as he was in the first quarter. I got Akeem Messador chasing the ball just as hard as he was in the first quarter, and Josh Chandler chasing the ball just as hard on that play as he was in the first quarter. So what I told them is if they can do that, the result will be what you want it to be more times than it's not. And so, and I hope that helps you kind of, like what our mindset is, what it needs to be moving forward. And sometimes that's a challenge when things don't go the way you wanted them to go. But I was very proud of how they played, and if they can do that, then it'll work out more times than not. And which coaches, players alike, that's always a challenge because you know you put so much into it, and you know it's you know that it's not the result you wanted, but it's you got to find a way to make it the result that you want, and that's you know honestly what we didn't do Saturday defensively.
Thompson's not running nearly as much as he did in the past. I think he has more carries in the 3 games against West Virginia than he does the entire year this year. And I know 2 of them you didn't play, but what are you seeing from him that's different than in the past?
I mean, I think he's probably and why he's not run as much. I mean, maybe it beat up over the last 2 years, but has a big arm and is one of the better quarterbacks in our league of setting back and diagnosing a defense. And I think when you look at the ability that they have with Deuce Vaughn and really, honestly, all their running backs, how they get them in formation and situations, and then those receivers outside, I really don't think he has to run as much, honestly, because he can deliver the ball and diagnose. He can go through his reads and diagnose a defense as well as anybody, I think, in my opinion. But I think that's probably a little combination of both.
Only allowed 15 sacks this season. What kind of challenges will you face kind of trying to get a consistent pass rush?
You know, I think it's again, it's they do a really nice job of limiting your opportunities to do that. Number one, it's whether it's moving the pocket with play actions in different forms or max protection, which people do to us a lot. Oklahoma State almost did it every play. Every play they threw the ball downfield, and then some of their structure of the offense is how their quick game is built. You know, so you know they don't give you a lot of those opportunities, and their offensive line is as good of a unit playing collectively together, not making mistakes as anybody in our league. So it's a little bit of everything, which quite honestly just makes a good offense.
You mentioned Sean Mahone. Obviously, he's very good academically. Not only played a lot of football, but smart as well. So, what does having a smart kid, especially in the back end like that, what's that allow you to do?
I mean, they're the quarterback. If I just put it simple terms, your safeties communicate. You know, they see more than everybody else should, and so they're having a guy back there. Number one, it's a necessity. You have to have somebody back there that can. What I just said about Thompson diagnosing a defense, you have to have somebody that can diagnose an offense and diagnose it before the ball is snapped, and get people in the positions they need to be in, alignments, checks, whatever it may be. And so it's the most important thing.
I know you study, you're studying primarily their offense, but do you ever put on the tape and just watch their other guy rush the passer? I guess this Anu Dike Uzama is a special guy, motor, and you've got some motor guys. Do you ever do that and show your guys, hey, this is how you should play?
Oh yeah, because you see them so much,
Yeah.
seeing other offense, right? And so, and every single guy, pass rushing is such a sometimes a natural skill. Now, really good pass rushers take what they're good at and get really good at it. They excel at what their skill set allows them to be. Some guys is length, some guys is speed, some guys is quickness, some guys is power. And so my point is when you take a guy like him, and if you have a guy that's very comparable, then there's nothing wrong with say, hey, look, y'all have the same skill sets, and this is something he does really good that maybe you're working on, or there's something you're trying to do that he has. Maybe he's an older guy, and you have a freshman that has the same skill set, that hasn't got to that point of his development yet. So absolutely, he's as good as anybody.
I guess the one common denominator is effort, right?
Show me a great pass rusher that's lazy, and I don't know if that exists.
How's Taj Austin done for the year?
I think he's done a great job. You know, that's exactly what Taj is. You know, Taj is a bigger kid, stronger kid. You know, if I put him in a category with defensive ends, primary rushers, he's a power guy. He's a strong kid. But going through what he's gone through, I think is says a lot about him as a person. You know, it's pretty easy to you go back to back. You know, you have to go to junior college and you go back to back years where you're not able to get on the field or very, very little, and to come back and do what he's done says what it. I think that probably answers your question.
Real quick, Dante's pick. Can you just walk us through that? It seemed like a really impressive.
A great play.
Yeah.
Great play. You tip the ball to yourself on a screen. That's a next level type play. You know, he gets mad. I don't brag on him more. I told him, I said, no, that should have been about your 8th one. You know, it's just your first one, but congratulations. But it should have been about your 8th one. You know, and I say that joking with him because he like how people tend to attack us. There's a lot of those opportunities out there, whether it's tipping balls straight up or to other guys on our defense. And I think sometimes my message, especially to Dante and a lot of defensive linemen, is not every successful pass rush is a sack. I know that's what you want, and that's ultimately going to get you where you want to get to, but that's not all the time a successful pass rush. You know, if you think about this, we were doing our developmental squad last night, and we have a situation where it's 3rd and 4, and if you're, you know, there are teams out there that are dynamic man blitz cover corner type groups. Obviously, you got all freshmen out there, you're probably not going to be that. So you're kind of limited what you can do structure wise. And 3rd and 3 and 4, that's really hard on a young corner. But we have Linnell Carr is actually in the game, and from the back shot, I saw he makes a really good pass rush, and he goes up and the ball misses his finger by literally I don't know if you could fit a piece of paper. And so I pointed that out on film today. It was that's how close you are to getting a dynamic like a big time play on a 3rd down, because that ball is tipped. Number one, there's no pass interference situation they need to understand in the back end. And number 2, that ball falls incomplete, punt team's on the field. Or you're playing 4th down, depending on the field position. It's a huge play. And so, like Dante as an example, that's always a point we try to point out. And I think a lot of times that we miss those opportunities because we're just worried about getting everybody wants to sack. Everybody wants to celebrate with the crowd. I get it. But if they just tip the ball incomplete, that's just as good. You know? So understanding that, and AJ does a great job. He works that drill every single day, and that's the first thing Dante said when he called. That's our drill, you know. So it just shows a lot of growth there.
Any other questions?
Whose was a better interception, Dante's or Darius's last year?
Darius's. I won't. And listen, Dante's was a great play, and he'll probably get mad I said that, but I go back to that play. That was. I don't know if we had an interception at DB that looked like that one, quite honestly. You know, if you pause it, he's parallel to the ground as he's catching the ball at 280. That's